What's up, guys? Mitchell Gonzalez, the Bearded Realtor here. Are you thinking about making a move to the Denver area? Well, I'm going to tell you what. Beware of new builds because you might just fall in love. So, let's hang out. What's up, guys? Mitchell Gonzalez, the Bearded Realtor here. If you've seen one of my videos before in the past, welcome back. If you're checking out one of my videos for the very first time, make sure you click that red subscribe button below, as I do post weekly content all about living in and moving to the Denver metro area. Along with that, as much as I love making these videos, I love helping people find their dream homes even more. So I am a licensed broker in the state of Colorado, so if you have any questions about real estate, interested in buying, selling a home, make sure you give me a call, shoot me a text, write me an email. I'm available 24/7 to answer any questions you might have about real estate. But with that being said, you guys, guess what? We've got a couple new national champions for NCAA basketball. LSU, they pulled it off against Caitlin Clark in Iowa. I don't think anyone saw that coming. Everyone's definitely jumping on the Caitlin Clark bandwagons. They definitely put in a pretty dominating performance. And then UConn, destroyed San Diego State's title hopes. They pretty much ran over every single team that stepped in their way. I think their closest game was like a 13-point win. So, but on the bright side, our CU Buffs right now, ESPN projections just came out. They are ranking them 13th next year, which would be, probably the best finish we've ever had if they could actually live up to those. Maybe an Elite Eight, you never know. But things are looking up for all of CU sports. So, but you guys, let's go ahead and jump into this video. So today I am here to talk to you guys about new builds and the new build process and really give you everything that you need to know if you're thinking about buying a new build home in the state of Colorado, or, probably this would work in a lot of other states, but obviously I live in and am licensed in Colorado. So I'm going to tell you everything that you guys need to know about new builds in Colorado. So the first disclosure that I like to make to my clients is, if we go look at a new build, be ready to fall in love with it. You are probably going to buy a new build. So when you go into a new build, the models, they look so nice. They are staged perfectly. Everything is brand new. And naturally, people are going to fall in love with that, right? They're going to love the idea of being the first ones to ever use their kitchen, first ones to ever use their bathrooms, being able to potentially pick out all their finishes. People love the nice, new, shiny objects. So I like to let people know that if we go look at a new build, you are probably going to end up buying a new build. So next thing is, make sure that you have your realtor present with you on the first time that you go see a new build. And this is important because a lot of builders, they have requirements where your realtor literally has to be at the first meeting. Otherwise, they cannot represent you, which I know sounds ridiculous and unfair, but it's a rule that a lot of them have. They have it on their doors, and a lot of them are really strict about it. And yes, if you go into a new build by yourself, the salesperson there might tell you, you don't need a realtor to do this process. And yes, that is technically true. Let's say you're getting sued for like $1 million. You also don't need a lawyer. You can represent yourself, right? But are you going to do that? Probably not. And it's the same thing when you are buying a home. So if you're looking at buying a home, there's a good chance it is the biggest purchase that you have ever made, or you're looking at making the biggest purchase of your life. $500,000, $600 million, I don't know, whatever the price range. It's a lot of money. And yes, the new salesperson will work with you, but at the end of the day, they work for the builder, right? And let's say something happens, something unexpected that might not be in your favor. Guess who they're going to be loyal to? The builder, right? Whereas you're going to want a realtor that has a fiduciary duty to represent you and has your best interest in mind. So it's always good to still have a realtor that is there to represent you and assist you through the process. And what's nice is, a lot of people don't know this, but you can still negotiate with new builds. Like, there's nothing to stop you from doing that. I mean, now depending on what the market's like, it's obviously going to be more difficult than other times to negotiate. But yes, you can negotiate, and that's where having a realtor could also help you with that. And the best part is that if you do choose to work with a realtor, guess how much it costs you to hire them? $0, because builders have the commission already built into their pricing. So the builders are the ones that pay the agent. Now, there are some realtors out there that might charge a retainer, might charge an admin fee. So just be aware of that with the agent. Just ask them if they do charge that. I don't, but there's some that do. But otherwise, the commission is covered by the builder. So it's really a no-brainer to work with an agent on your purchase. So the next thing is be aware of the contract. So the Colorado Real Estate Commission wrote a contract on typical resale offers that is very friendly to the buyer. It's got a handful of outs that if the buyer were to terminate the contract or if the deal were to fall apart, the buyer would get their earnest money back. Whereas a builder contract is very seller friendly, and an agent can kind of help you navigate that. But just know that these contracts are non-negotiable. If you ask them to change some terms, they're probably going to say no. But having an agent that's able to kind of help you through that contract and help you understand it is really important. And so some of the main things that to know about the contract or ask about is incentives. So a lot of times builders will have an incentive tied to, like, let's say if you use their lender or their preferred insurance company, they might give you a certain incentive that's tied to that contract. So you have to use those people to get that incentive. Now, if you have a lender or insurance company that you want to use, you can absolutely use whichever one you want. You just might not get those incentives. So just knowing the difference between that. Along with that, another important item on the contract is contingencies. So let's say you are looking to buy a new build, but then you have to sell your home in order to buy that new build. A lot of new builders actually won't write contingent contracts, meaning that there's no out if you're not able to sell your home, or if you decide not to sell it, your earnest money could potentially be at risk. So now some of them will work with you on a contingency, but a lot of times they might require more earnest money, and they might make that earnest money non-refundable. So these are all different things that you have to be aware of in the contract, that typically on a typical real estate or resale, your earnest money is very refundable. It's pretty easy to get back. On a new build, it might not be as easy to recoup your money if the deal does fall apart. So just know that that is one of the big things on the contract. So another thing is understand the different processes that new builds go through from the time you contract to when you close. And so one of the big draws that brings a lot of people in new builds is the opportunity to pick out your own finishes. Now there's two different types of upgrades primarily that you can do now. Obviously you can do like pick your different lots, pick the outside of the home, different colors. But then there's also your structural upgrades, which that's going to be like adding a fireplace, adding AC. A lot of new builds don't include air conditioning. That's for a lot of them. Some of them it is standard, but a lot of them it's not. Maybe you want to turn an office into a bedroom, things like that. Upgrading a bathroom, adding a third car garage. Those are structural upgrades. And then you have your design center upgrades. Those are things like your lighting, your floor, your paint, your cabinets, your countertops, all the fun, pretty things. Design center. And so those are the two types of upgrades. Now, a lot of people that see new builds, they want to be able to design their own home. And just know that you can't necessarily do that with all builders. So there's definitely some builders out there still that will let you choose every single design element from the time that you break ground to when it closes. Now there's some that pre-select the structural upgrades and you can still choose the design center. There's some that literally just do all spec homes, which basically that means that they're going to pick everything out for you. They're going to pick out the lot, they're going to pick out all the structural items, they're going to pick out all of the design center, and the price you see is how much you're paying for the home. Now, typically when you see a price on a home, it has base. The base option is what you're seeing, and then you have to pay for all these upgrades. So sometimes that number is going to be pretty minimal. Sometimes you could easily spend $200,000-$300,000 in upgrades. That's something to factor in, that most likely the price that you're looking at is just the base price and doesn't include any upgrades. Another option that a lot of builders do is they have different packages. So they might have like 5 or 6 different packages where it already has the floor, countertops, cabinets, tile, all picked out, and you just pick whichever package you want. So I would get with whoever your real estate expert is. Tell them which option you're looking to do, whether that's you just want a spec home or you want to choose everything. And your realtor should be willing to go and call the different communities and see how that process works. That's something that I'm more than willing to do for my clients, is figure out which builder is the right fit based on what their needs are and what they're wanting out of the process. So another thing that's really important to know is a lot of builders, when you go in, they're going to talk about an MSI or a Metro District tax, and a lot of them might not have an HOA. And so that's a common thing that you'll see is they'll say, oh, we don't have an HOA. We just have an MSI, that's built into your property taxes. And so what that means is this is common for a lot of builders, because if you're developing a community, you need money, obviously, to do the streets, to do the parks, to maybe build a clubhouse, do all those things. You need more money to build an infrastructure. And so a lot of times they create a Metro District, which is still a governing body that you have to nominate a board and everything. A lot of times the builder will have people that work for them on the board. Sometimes they have residents. Sometimes it's a combination of both. But it's actually a governing body that makes these decisions, reviews the financials and everything. And they probably still have covenants in place, like, no RVs or leaving your trash bins out, or certain rules for what your yard has to look like. But yes, that's not technically an HOA, but a lot of times the taxes are a lot higher because of that. So you might see, instead of taxes being like 0.5% of the property value, they might be 1.2, 1.3% of the property value. So just know that even though they say it's an MSI, it might not necessarily be saving money over communities that don't have one and have an HOA. You might still be saying, spending the same amount in your property taxes. And so understand the difference between an MSI and an HOA. I'll probably do a video in the future just to go over those differences in more detail. So another important thing to really understand is locking interest rates for a new build. So a lot of times on these new builds, sometimes you might only be 3-4 months out on the building process. Sometimes they might say, hey, you can't buy, we're not going to be complete for another year, which means you might not be able to lock your interest rate for 10 or 11 months. Now, this affected a lot of people last year because a lot of individuals were going under contract on these new builds and everything, and the interest rates were like in the 3s, low 4s. All of a sudden they shot to 7s, and people couldn't qualify for the homes anymore. Or they were qualifying at 4%, and now all of a sudden they're at 7%, and their monthly is way higher, and they couldn't get out of the contract because they still qualify. So just understand that you can't lock down an interest rate right away. You have to wait a while. So if interest rates are fluctuating, then that could potentially hurt you. Now, right now, since interest rates are in the 6s and they're projected to go down to the 5s, that could be a good thing, where the timing could be really good, where you buy a home where the market's kind of not as hot as it was, and then once interest rates go down, you lock down the lower price and you can get the lower interest rate. So understanding when you can lock down interest rates on a new build is really important as well, if interest rates are something that's really important to you. So next I'm going to talk about the costs that you have after you move into your home. So this is really important because a lot of people, they buy a new build and they think, well, since I'm buying a brand new home, I'm not going to have to put any money into like renovating or doing upgrades, right? And that's true. Yes, if you buy a home that needs a lot of upgrading, then that could cost you a lot of money out of pocket. But just know, if you buy a new home, some of the costs that you might have might include window coverings. Window coverings could cost you a couple $1,000s. Backyard, you're probably going to have to finish your backyard. That can cost you $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 pretty easily. Your fence, you're probably going to have to install a fence. You could be looking at a couple of grand for that. And then also, just let's say it's a step-up home and you're moving into a bigger home. Just the cost of furniture alone, if you have to buy new furniture, if they don't include a fridge and washer and dryer, you might have to buy a fridge and washer and dryer. So just have proper expectations that when you buy a new build, you still might have to spend $20,000, $30,000 after closing. So that's a really important thing for buyers to know about the new build process. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is the warranties. So make sure that you really understand how your builder warranty works. Now, a lot of them have great warranty programs. So make sure that you understand a lot of them will have like a 1-year warranty that covers just all the basic stuff inside, with like, let's say you have cracking or something like that, or just a cabinet is messed up, just things like that, where they'll cover those things after 1 year. And then they might have a longer warranty for structural, for the different systems, electrical, HVAC, plumbing, that might be 2-3 years. Typically your structural warranty is going to be a little bit longer, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. So make sure that you truly understand how their warranty works and the process, because a lot of times they'll have certain websites that you need to fill out inquiries. They'll have certain individuals that you need to contact. So it's extremely important that if you buy a new build that you understand the warranty process as well. So those are the few things that I think are most important for you to know if you are thinking about buying a new build. All right, you guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. Hopefully you learned something new about the new build process. Maybe it helped you make a decision on if a new build is right for you or not. So if you have any other questions about real estate, maybe you want to take a look at some of these new builds or at any resale homes, make sure you give me a call, shoot me a text, write me an email. I'm available 24/7 to answer any questions you might have about real estate. If you haven't had a chance yet, make sure that you do click that red subscribe button below, as I do post weekly videos all about living in and moving to the Denver metro area. So with that being said, you guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. Bearded Realtor, signing off.